Cujo. Oh my God, you rabbit.
Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Rich and Jon, episode number 7. I cannot believe it. It's 7 episodes already. Seems like we just started. We've not reviewed. We've talked about and discussed the impact that the movies that we grew up with had on us, and I'm having the best time with this. My name is Rich Cyr, and
I'm Jon Bristol, and I'm having a blast with this too. Every one we do is a different thing, which is cool and a lot of fun. So I'm just glad we're doing more.
Yeah, well, this is a special episode because
yes, it is.
We have a guest, a very special guest, going to be on our show, and she was in a couple well-known movies, I guess.
She's not on tonight. This is the precursor.
No,
everybody.
I know she's going to be a guest on another episode of this. But so we're recording this first, and 2 of the movies that she was in, out of maybe close to 200 movies, one is The Howling, the other one is Cujo. It's all about D. Wallace. This is D. Wallace night here on Real Talk with Rich and Jon.
D. Wallace, yeah, two for one tonight, which is good. One thing I like when we do multiple movies, we're doing a series, except for the last episode. But so this time we're just kind of hitting 2 different movies, but the theme is the actress, which is really cool.
Yes,
and I'm sure we'll end up talking about some of our other films too. But Cujo and The Howling, which was one of my favorite werewolf movies ever made, so I'm excited about this.
Yeah, well, let's start with that then, because 1981 was a good year for werewolf movies.
Yes, American Werewolf. Yeah,
American Werewolf in London, Wolfen, and The Howling.
Yeah.
And I liked Wolfen, but my 2 favorite for that year, and probably my 2 favorite of all the werewolf movies, are The Howling and American Werewolf in London. And it's funny, the correlation between that, because we'll start right now with Rob Bottin did the special effects in The Howling.
He did.
Rick Baker started in that movie.
And then left to do American Werewolf.
Yes. But then he left. But Rick Baker, and we talked about this in our episode on The Thing, Rick Baker and Rob Bottin are friends, and they work together a lot. So he was, he consulted him, and they helped out a lot. But yeah, Rob Bottin, this was probably his first big start. I mean, like, the thing came out a year later or 2 years later. So, but you could tell he's still getting his. I mean, the special effects are great. And
they had a small budget on that movie too. The Howling was what, like $8 million or something?
I'll tell you in a second. The budget was $1.5 million.
1.5
million. And the box
1.5? That was it?
Yes, that's it.
So Cujo must have been $8 million. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But wow,
Cujo is $8 million. Yes. So
that's
with
nothing for a movie, even though.
And there's scenes in there, like the commercials about the cereal in The Howling. No, that's right. It's Cujo. Sorry. So I watched both movies around the same time.
Yeah.
But I was listening to an interview with Dee Wallace, and she was saying that Joe Dante had to put a lot of his own money into this because the studio said, "No, we're not going to pay for this. We're not going to pay for that."
Oh no!
And the special effect, what he did was he promised the studio, Joe Dante promised the studio, that they would do a transformation scene with no cutaways, and Rob Bottin loved it. But what happened
was really good.
Yeah. What happened was that they didn't have enough money for it. He only had enough money for to make effects for the head and hands. So that what he did is he went to embassy to ask for more money, and they filmed the sequence 3 months later.
Aha! We showed you what it's like. Give us some more money to make it better.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, that does happen a lot, which is good. Yeah. Robert Picardo killed it. In that transformation. I know it was mostly effects, but the fact that he played that character that was transforming, and he did such a good job. And I didn't know that was Robert Picardo as like a kid.
Oh, I know.
I know the actor I'd seen his face in a million things, but you don't really see his face at all because he's almost always in some sort of prosthetic. Even after the acid thrown at him and half his face is melted, which is an amazing effect too. He's you don't recognize him. You don't recognize he's not the holographic doctor from Star Trek or the guy from Inner Space, a million other movies he's done, but he's
this movie alone had so many classic actors. I mean, first of all, John Carradine, who's been in at least 1,000 movies. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. But look at his IMDb. I mean, it's probably 3 pages long. The guy's been in everything. And from what I heard, he was really sick in the filming of this movie. And he pulled. I mean, he he was one of these classics, the wacko that everybody thinks is crazy, but he's the only one that knows everything.
Which is essentially what he was in this in a way too, you know.
Yes. So then they had like Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy. I would just say Mr. Kevin McCarthy.
Yep.
And Dick Miller.
Patrick Macnee. Dick Miller. Who else? Christopher Stone, obviously. That's Dee Wallace's husband.
Yeah, that was her fiance at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and then not sure if you know this, but he got the movie because of her. Did you hear this story?
No.
All right, here's what happened. They were looking for somebody to be her husband, and she was engaged to Chris Stone at the time. And she goes, I know this actor, Chris. I can't remember his last name. It starts with an S. Chris. I think it might be Chris Stone. And they're like, all right, let me check it out. So a couple days later, the phone rings at Chris's house. Dee picks it up. I'm like, oh, sorry, we must have dialed the wrong number. I'm looking for Chris. He got the part. You didn't make a mistake. We're engaged. And you're like, ha-ha. So she goes, he got the part on his own, but
she helped with a little nudge to get his foot in the door. He still had to audition, I'm sure, but yeah.
Yeah, because he got the part without even realizing, because she said she was worried that if she said, oh yeah, well, my fiance, they would be like, yeah, that's okay. Sorry about that. They wouldn't have even
nepotism or whatever the word is.
Yeah. So
that's great though.
Yep. And then of course again he played in Cujo with her.
Yep. And that played her husband in that one that she was cheating on with the other guy. And in this one, in Howling, sure, it's her husband, but she's cheating on her with the werewolf lady, which is funny.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. I like what they did with that because they really didn't have a lot enough. They wanted to do the transformation scene. Speaking of the werewolf lady, and they did it with animation.
With a slight bit of animation, just in the wide shot. Yep. There was it's like it doesn't take me out of the scene. Like as a filmmaker and as a film viewer, that kind of thing was done a lot in the past, little bits of animation just to make an effect work. And even in Tim Burton's first Batman, going all the way to '89, there's a scene where Batman's actually animated. People don't catch it, because it's done from the distance as a shadowy scene, and you don't even realize it's animation. And, it just makes it that much weirder. That movie's weird as it is, and that just takes it to that next level of like fantasy weird.
Yeah,
and that movie is definitely a weird movie. The Howling is definitely a weird movie. That's part of why I like it so much.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny because what they wanted to do was they had somebody set to do the movie, and it was Jack Conrad.
Yep.
He optioned the rights for it, and he wrote a screenplay. He was ready to direct it. The studio saw it and said, no, we don't like any of this at all. So that's when they got Joe Dante, who was friends with Roger Corman, and also John Sayles, who wrote
it and went a little more tongue-in-cheek with it, a little more humorous than the book. Which I like, actually. I mean, sometimes horror movies can take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And I've read the book, and it takes itself very seriously, almost to the point where it's not scary anymore. It's just it's dramatic, which is good because horror has drama, but it's almost like a drama, like melodrama. So, like, I think the movie was just a better take on the same story. I can't say that it's better than the book because it's different, but I prefer the story of the movie better, the way they handled things.
What they were saying was that the only thing that they kept from the book was that it's werewolves in modern times. Other than that,
pretty much. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Yeah, some of the character names, things like that, but it's very different. Yeah.
Well,
I wasn't too happy about it.
What's interesting about the character names is that all the many characters were named after horror film directors who directed other films that featured werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
So you had George Wagner, who directed The Wolfman. You had R. William Neal, who directed Frankenstein Meets Wolfman. You had Terrence Fisher, The Curse of the Werewolf. Freddie Francis, Legend of the Werewolf. Earl Kent, House of Dracula, which co-stars John Carradine, who plays Kent in The Howling. So, I mean, there's so many in-jokes in this movie. That's what I love about it. I mean, unless you're a real movie geek, it's going to go. But the thing is, what's so great about that is there's so many in-jokes and so many cameos. And even if you don't know these people, the movie just goes along. It's not distracting.
No, especially. I mean, you look back when it came out too. You probably didn't really think much of that the fact that it was just drew a blank on the guy, not Dick Miller, but
played in the movie Kevin McCarthy.
Kevin McCarthy, yeah. That you don't think much about it because he was just a well-known character actor, and Dick Miller, he was in things too. So, as these guys got a little older, they became legendary for what they were doing. But at this point, they were right on the cusp of that. So there's actors in a movie to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Dick Miller has one of my favorite lines in the whole movie.
What's that?
At the end, when he's watching the newscast, I think he just goes, "Oh shit!" Or I remember, just one of my favorite lines. I can't even think what the line is, but it's the impetus of what he's saying is like his reaction to seeing the werewolf change on TV. He's like, "Yeah, here we go," Or how the little kids are like, "Mommy, we just watched the news lady turn into a werewolf."
I love that. I have to say, Dee makes the cutest werewolf I've ever seen.
Yeah, they should more like a little puppy. Then maybe she wasn't fully transformed, is what I'm guessing. Before they shot.
Here's I read why they did that, because they wanted to distinguish her from the evil werewolves, so they gave her a nicer, and they called it the Pekinese look. So it was like a Pekinese. So they wanted to show like she's one of the good ones, and she's not an evil werewolf. Okay. But that scene was actually, let me get the information on that. It was shot in close-ups because what happened was they didn't have a set. That scene was shot a day before the movie was to be printed.
Oh wow!
So they went back, and as you see, as she's turning into a werewolf, it's all close-ups because there was no set.
Yeah, the wide angles were shot earlier. That's crazy. Holy cow, I didn't know that. Huh.
They wanted to go back and show the transformation, and like I said, the movie for $1.5 million. Joe Dante got the most out of his money.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I heard it was like only a 28-day shoot or something too. It was very short.
28 days
for principal, and that included the reshoots, right? Yeah. So that's like, when you think about that, that's like 3 weeks of shooting and then a week of reshoots, if that. That's crazy. Like,
and it made $17.9 million. So
I'd call that a success. Yeah.
Yes. Well, they said let's see where it is. There was the highest. No. Sorry, I have my notes about like what I think it was the fourth gross. No, that was that's the other movie. We'll talk about that later. Cujo, fourth highest grossing in with the Twilight Zone, Psycho 2, and Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3D.
Well, speaking of Jaws 3, I love this fact. Joe Dante was hired. He was taken off the script he was working on. It was called Jaws 3, People Zero. He was working on that, and they said, that was the best.
Spielberg was all about it. He was all about that. He wanted a comedy. He thought that would be really funny to make the third Jaws movie a comedy and just take away, get it away from what they were doing. And the studio was just like, people aren't going to understand it. They're not going to get the joke.
I think probably around that time, that's when he was trying, his first foray into comedy was the movie 1941. And he was probably trying.
That was a few years before. This was 80. What Jaws 3 came out 81.
Oh, you're right, 1980. So say it was.
So this was the same year Raiders of the Lost Ark came out. Yeah.
Okay, so when George Lucas put a lot of comedy into that, so he was probably.
I just think a lot of people I think the studio just want to make another Jaws movie. They didn't want to make a Jaws parody movie and call it Jaws.
Well, the director, the writer he was writing another script at the same time. The movie Alligator. I don't know if you ever saw that. Oh, yeah. I love that. I remember seeing that at the drive-in. We went to drive-in. They gave us a small alligator. But they said that what they would do is they'd be knocking on the door, and he'd say, "Who is it?" And whoever producer was, you hear like the typewriter, the paper taken out, and put the other paper. He was writing two scripts at the same time. He was writing Alligator and The Howling at the same time.
Howling. That's crazy. That's good, though. Like, that he could pull that off. What was your when did you first see The Howling? How did it affect you? What were you thinking?
I loved it, and I was a little bit older. I was 19. I want to say I didn't see it in the movies. I don't think I saw it in the theaters. It was in 81. I was old enough. I was like 11 years old. But I remember I saw it on HBO, so probably say 83. I think.
Yeah, that's when I saw it. Yeah.
But I remember laughing, especially that part where he goes, "I want to give you a piece of my mind." Like I always, and what's funny that he said as a joke, like and Joe Dante said, "Whoa, keep that." He goes, "I'm just kidding." He goes, No, I love that
because that sense of humor, that weird sense of humor that was through the whole movie, that weird I saw it around the same time when it was like on HBO or Showtime when it first hit like cable, and it was like this one of those other horror movies in my house where it was like, "Oh, you shouldn't watch this. You can't." My parents were, "No, it's R. We're not going to let you watch it," because I would have been 8 in 83.
Yeah.
No, you can't watch it. You can't watch it. I think they were probably more worried about the nudity than they were about the horror element of it, because I'd already seen plenty of stuff. And we're finally okay, can watch it. And the Picardo character Quist like creeped me out. Like
what did
Quist?
Oh yeah.
He just creeped me out. Like I was just like, ooh, even when he was the half werewolf, he was stuck in the brain thing. I was laughing, but grossed out, and like the melted face, and but the other werewolf stuff didn't scare me really at all. The action was like intense, but I wasn't scared of werewolves. I mean, at 8 years old, I was smart enough to know there are no such thing as werewolves. Or just kidding, but I wasn't worried that werewolves were going to come to my bedroom at night, things like that. But I loved it. I remember watching it thinking like, this is the coolest thing. I hadn't seen American Werewolf in London yet either. So
I saw that. You know what's funny? So I remember seeing that one in the theater.
Yeah,
that one
I saw it after that. Yeah, and then I found out they were the same year, and I was just blown away. These two awesome werewolf things, and I got really into werewolf movies for a while after that. Like I remember, like we'd rent like The Wolf Man, and anything with a werewolf I could find at the video store. I was like, I want to watch now. I remember when Teen Wolf came out, I was so excited to have another wolf movie that was new. And I knew it wasn't going to be scary. I still love Teen Wolf, man. That movie's fun,
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you. I love it. But
yeah, so I remember that was my experience. Though was like I was like uncomfortable because some of the weird stuff, and at that age I didn't get some of the humor. So I remember like not seeing it again for a good 10 years. Like I missed to watch it again and then seeing it again 18, 19 years old, maybe even 20, renting it. How am I going to rent that? Or, because I know I didn't see it on TV again. I remember renting it with a girlfriend or something and like giggling through it because it kind of makes fun of the whole new age thing that was going on in the 80s. It's late 70s, everyone's like, we go in groups and, we look at the sky together and hope for goodness and all that. Like they're kind of making fun of that whole movement and all that.
Well, I was going to say, you know why they did that? John Sayles was a psychology major.
Oh, okay.
And he put that in there intentionally, as you said, to make fun of him. Like Patrick McNeil was the head of that. And what happened was the smiley face was the big thing at the time. Joe Dante hated that with a passion. So he made that the serial killer's calling card.
And then he used it in Gremlins again.
Yes.
He put it on the fridge in Gremlins,
But it's funny you mentioned that your mother probably didn't want you to see the nudity. You know who else hated the nudity in that movie? Dee Wallace. What happened was they wanted to make the movie so realistic that, like, instead, it's still like the Hulk. He turns into the Hulk. He still has his pants on and his shirt's a little bit ripped. And this movie made it where everybody, like, the clothes are shreds. And everybody's naked. Dee walked into the colony. Dee walked in there and said, "There's no way I'm filming this scene like this." So they can't have the werewolves have some clothes on.
I mean, like, I understand, like, as you turn to a werewolf, your clothes would tear off. You don't need to have, like, full frontal nudity to show that that's what's happening. The rest, they could turn werewolf, either clothes could be stuck on the wolf can tear the rest of the clothes off, and you have a furry wolf. As a filmmaker, I can see both sides of that. Like, had they not had the woman wolf be fully naked, and they might have got a PG on that movie at that point in the 80s too. That could have pulled. It was pre-PG-13. Had there not been nudity and a couple less, that could have been a PG movie easily for 81.
Oh yeah,
because you look at a movie. I mean, the same year Raiders of the Lost Ark came out that year, and if you put a nude scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it would have been R. That is so gory in some scenes and so violent. Indiana Jones is the hero, and he's outright murdering people. We forget that, I know. Not murdering in cold blood, but he's still killing people, and not necessarily always in the most heroic way. Sometimes he's just doing it to get the hell out of there. He's a shady guy sometimes, but that got a PG. And I always thought about the Howling. It's like you take the nudity away and drop a couple of curse words, and that could have been a PG movie.
Yeah.
And when PG-13 first happened, if they didn't show the full frontal, maybe just her chest, they might have PG-13 on that.
Well, look how they did it. Look what Rick Baker and John Landis did in American Werewolf in London. You
never see the nudity,
but
it's all implied.
It's implied in the way the camera angle is. They show his full body, but then all of a sudden the hair starts materializing, and so they show his body very quickly, but only the backside, and then all of a sudden then it goes a close up of the face and the eyes. So that there's a way to do it, and I think
they probably were also tied to a studio that wanted nudity to get a certain audience and a certain rating. That happened, but it was still. I mean, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially with that female werewolf. I didn't mind seeing her.
And also that scene that this like scene that becomes animated and all that when they're changing the werewolves. the werewolf transformation during that, like when their faces are changing, that's so well done. It's creepy. It's like really well done.
No, like we said before in our thing episode, Rob Bottin, Rick Baker, and Tom
Masters.
Savini. Those three are my all-time favorites, and they still are. So this movie is similar to From Dusk Till Dawn for a reason. From Dusk Till Dawn, I'll tell you, in the first half of the movie, you have no idea it's a vampire picture. So what the Howling did, the studio said slasher pictures were very, very popular at that time. So they made it look like a slasher picture. You really don't even know it's even from the poster, you don't realize it's a werewolf movie until the last half of the movie.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And From Dusk Till Dawn is one of my all-time favorite horror movies too. So
yeah,
that's a great comparison because when you're watching it, I remember like when I rewatched it this past week just because I hadn't seen it in a while. I wanted to watch it again because we were going to do this, and I do like the film. But I remember like thinking about, I didn't put the Dusk Till Dawn together, but I was watching like, wow, it takes forever to actually see a werewolf or even hear the term werewolf. And it was just like, this is cool. I like this. It's that slow build up, but it's still a weird movie and bizarre.
Yeah.
They finally become werewolves. You're like, there it is. You know?
Yeah. I think it's a great satire because they make fun of, the self-help movement. They make fun of so many different things. And there's so many in-jokes in there. And the character actors alone, we didn't even mention Slim Pickens plays a cop. We have Kenneth Tobey from the original Thing from Another World. He plays another cop in the porn shop in the very beginning. I mean, that's
cool.
This movie has
Joe Dante is one of those. Yeah, Joe Dante is one of those directors who's always bringing the old guys back for things. That's why Dick Miller was in so many of his movies in general. He always loves bringing those guys back.
They said Dick Miller was in every one of his movies except for one, and only because his scene was cut out. But he loves Dick Miller.
So he shot a scene, but he doesn't use it.
Yeah. So every one of Joe Dante's, and Dick Miller is one of the best character actors.
Oh, there's a great documentary about him. I think it's on Shudder.
Yeah, it is. I didn't see it yet, but I want to.
It's fun.
I'm a huge fan of him.
Yeah, he went to Hollywood to be a writer, which is kind of funny. He ended up becoming this actor that everyone knows his face and his name, like in his voice.
Well, I like how they made him the expert.
Yeah.
And that's what I was reading about this. They said most of the mythology of the Wolfman was created by the 1941 movie. And so they said most of the werewolf movies, the folklore changed due to the budget constraints. So they brought in, for like, sometimes I guess they created the full moon effect because of it would have had taken several months for all the action to happen if it wasn't for the full moon. So they added that in there to make it so it can happen quicker. But I like how they just said Dick Miller saying this and saying that, and then they're like, oh no, it doesn't have to be Silver Bullet or this, it doesn't have to be whatever.
Yeah.
All the lore that it had, and they were able to film around that lore and create a whole new werewolf picture.
Which is great, and they still did the Silver Bullet thing, which I loved. So that was cool to see. How quickly they would die when they got shot by the Silver Bullet too. That was a different take because it's movies get shot, people just drop or they like react for like 30 seconds, And
they added the burning too.
Yeah, but they just shot him, and and he dropped dead. It was that moment of shit. This isn't a bullet. This is a shit. Click, just fall. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah. But they had the composer. I love talking about music. So I both talk about like how music is such an important part of the movie. This composer could not speak English at all.
Yeah.
They brought in this director. His name was Paul Barbel, or I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but they both spoke Spanish. And then he went back, he saw the movie, went back to Italy, and then mailed them the score.
Right. Yeah, I was reading a little bit about that too. Pino Donaggio, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm looking at it now. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I apologize, Mr. Pino. Giuseppe's real first name. Yeah, and he hadn't done like a lot of that kind of genre film at that point either. He did Don't Look Now, which was a big deal, the Nicholas Roeg film, and he did Carrie. And him and Dante hooked up with Piranha. That's how they first worked together.
Yeah, which I love that movie.
Yeah, but he wasn't like. And then he did Blowout later, and he did a lot more dramatic stuff as the years went on. And then towards the more modern end of his career, he wasn't doing a lot of U.S. films. He came back to the U.S. and did one of the Chucky films. I'm trying to remember which one. I'm going through his filmography right now. A few more U.S. films, but nothing that was like huge. Tom, he did a ton of movies with over the years, including he did Snake Eyes later on too.
Oh, with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, 2004, he did Seed of Chucky. Of all the Chucky movies, he did Seed of Chucky. I'm sure it was probably just one of those things that it was a great paycheck, or he just thought it was a funny ass movie. You know?
Yeah.
History with horror, it might have been a combination of the two. It's probably like, yeah, I'll do a Chucky movie. Why not? You know?
Yeah. Why? You know what? Why say no? I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And he's still
job
going.
is a job. I don't care.
Yeah, and he's still going. He did De Palma's last film, Domino, last year.
Oh, really?
He did the score for that, so he's still going, which is great.
I just think it's interesting the fact that they brought him over. They brought another guy who spoke Spanish. They both went over.
Yeah,
He went back to Italy, then said, "All right," mailed them the score. It's not like now where you could just email them with a computer
and send
like,
files.
"Oh, here's my MP3."
Oh my god! Like when we just from my own experience making films, when we did Josh and Todd, we didn't have a budget for a soundtrack, and we were like, "What are we gonna do?" So we put a thing on Facebook, and it was like, "Hey, local bands like Connecticut, Massachusetts, you want your song in a movie? I can't pay you, but we'll make a music video for the song if you want us to." And then fans reached out like, "Heck yeah, we'll do that." So it was great, like they just emailed us the song, meet it in MP3. Where now, or then in 1981, you couldn't email an MP3 to somebody. You couldn't, And,
I know.
Yeah, or even email a script. You had to like deliver it or mail it, And with Josh and that's one thing I like with Josh is no one even cared the movie's about. They just like, yeah, I want my own song in a movie.
See, that's how I would be too. I don't say no to anything.
Yeah.
If there's a job, it's like I laughed when I was doing comedy for like 2 or 3 years. Somebody would say, "Well, I'm not going to do a show that I don't get paid at." Well, you're not going to get any shows.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere,
Exactly. You're 3 years is nothing on the timeline compared to like what they say, the 20-year overnight success.
That's what it is usually, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but for getting back to composer, he was looking for a theme for the Howling, and he got his inspiration from watching Jaws.
Okay, which makes sense. That slow burn up.
Yeah. So there's a lot of connections with Steven Spielberg in this movie.
Yeah, well, Joe Dante and Spielberg worked together too later on, and they were
with Gremlins
too. So Gremlins and Gremlins too, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where
was Dante involved? No, he wasn't involved in Twilight Zone. No.
Was that?
Dante didn't do anything in Twilight Zone, right?
I don't think so. No, it was John Landis, Steven Spielberg, and 2 other directors.
Yeah, but it wasn't Joe Dante. Yeah.
No. But they so the movie with huge success, great cast, and it was great characters, great special effects. I mean, all in all, I cannot really find any flaws with the movie.
A thumbs up movie all the way, going to Siskel and Ebert, thumbs up all the way.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you've ever bothered with any of the sequels.
I wanted to talk about that.
Good.
I never saw any of them.
Okay.
But it's just what I did was I watched the trailers and I said
that's all you'll ever need is to watch.
Yeah.
I remember seeing probably around the same time I rented The Howling, like in the early mid-90s when I was like between 18 and 20. I couldn't tell you exactly how old. I rented Howling 2 right after that because I didn't even know there were sequels. And I was like an HBO kid. I was a Showtime kid. If it was Showtime, I probably saw it. And somehow I missed The Howling 2. I probably saw the commercial for it. I was like, no. Yeah.
I remember the commercials when it came out, and it was the same thing. I said, nothing's going to top the first.
First off, the title is Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf.
Yes.
So right there, this is not going to be a good movie. It's not even supposed to be a funny title. That's the worst part because the movie's played so straight. So bad. It is so bad. It's Sybil Danning. Was known for being like in lots of B movies. The big draw was she's topless, so everyone wanted to see her boobs, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Christopher Lee is in it.
Oh yeah. I saw
and I'm sure it was just one of those things where it was like, oh, The Howling, a sequel. Yeah, I'll do that. That sounds great. I'm Christopher Lee. And I'm a little older now. And there's even a scene where he's like in like an 80s nightclub with like the skinny sunglasses and all. It's just like, oh my God. Like it's so like the first Howling, obviously $1 million to make it, not an expensive movie.
Yep.
Movie, you can look at it and know they spent more on it, but it looks cheaper. Everything about it is just so cardboard, so cheesy. So first off, right there, that's your first sequel. For a dumpster fire of follow-ups. Like it's awful, it's bad. Christopher Lee actually apologized to Joe Dante on the set of Gremlins 2 for the movie.
That's funny.
Yeah, he actually apologized to him. I'm sure Joe Dante was like, I don't care. But still, like that was kind of nice of him. Like, listen, I did that sequel.
Yeah.
You sullied your movie with this terrible sequel. It's that bad.
And Christopher Lee can definitely be forgiven because he's done so many
Oh,
classic
yeah.
Hammer movies. I mean,
Hammer. He was. He did some Tim Burton things. He was.
Oh yeah.
He was in Star Wars. Like I like.
Oh yeah.
Oh, exactly. Sometimes you do one for the paycheck. Someday we'll talk about Jaws and we'll talk about Michael Caine and we'll go over his story about that.
But there is one more connection with Spielberg and this movie. Like we said, Joe Dante, he liked the movie. Yep. He got Joe Dante to do Gremlins. He also saw Dee Wallace and said,
Dee Wallace,
he'd be the mother in E.T.
Yeah, which is totally against like everything she had really done at that point.
Yeah.
More dramatic, like the hot woman, not necessarily like sexy, like the attractive woman, the powerful woman, like she never played the mom type before.
Yeah.
She was playing a soon-to-be single mom in E.T., and that was a total like U-turn for her. She was always nice and everything, but it was just
And then she became after that. She became typecast as the mom in E.T., Cujo, and even she said, "I'm always the mom, always taking care of the kid, and always trying to save the kid." And we're gonna talk about that in Cujo next. But so there's a lot of connections with Spielberg and The Howling, and it worked out pretty well for everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the rest of the Howling sequels, by the way, just skip them all. None of them until like I think the 5th or 6th go back to the continuity. They're all just werewolf movies that use The Howling as a title to sell it.
You saw them all?
No, I read synopsises leading up to this. I went back and I was maybe I'll watch a couple more of them. And after I read like the IMDb synopsis of each film and realized they're not part of the series. Like none of them were tied in. They were just like different. Where one, I think one of them took place in Australia. Like they were using Howling because they had the brand name, the studio name to use it, so they just kept using it. The author of the book came back and wrote one of them.
Oh, really?
Wrote one of them, but it was it might have been the second one even. But it was all awful, and I think they did try to do like a reboot a few years ago. I was reading a little bit about that, but it was like a knockoff of a Twilight movie. They just used Howling as the title. So because they owned it. Yeah. So
studios say the same thing. They said we really care less about the product. We want a name that's going to sell. So people know The Howling. It has a cult following. So they get people in there like, oh wow, The Howling. It's got to be good.
I'll buy it because of the brand, and then you see it and you're like, this has nothing to do with the brand.
Yeah, it's similar to a band. They said it doesn't matter what the members are. Owning the name is the most important part of a band. If you own the name of the band, so it's the same thing with a movie. The next one,
The Howling.
Cujo.
Oh, I mean Cujo. Cujo, Stephen King. This is our first time we're talking about a Stephen King movie, right?
Yes. And the funny thing is this is the one novel that he doesn't even remember writing.
Remember, because cocaine.
Cocaine was involved.
He probably banged this book out in 45 minutes, one draft, and sold 8 million copies because it was cocaine in the 80s and Stephen King was that good of a writer. You know?
And his version was a little bit darker, but all his books are dark. In the book, the kid died from
Cat dies. Yep.
And so what happened was they had him write the first script, and they said, surprisingly, it was strayed too far from the book.
Oh wow! Well, probably because he wasn't high and he wanted to do different things.
I know. I'm surprised because like a lot of times writers get mad because that's not my film or that's not my book. Like Stephen King with The Shining, he was so mad at Kubrick because Kubrick really changed everything around.
Yeah.
The only reason which we talked about in the previous episode was that was more autobiographical. So
that's why for King, yeah.
Like with this one,
but Douglas Adams is a good example of an author who loved it when the book was changed. Because he did Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And he wrote the radio play and he changed it. And then he wrote the BBC miniseries and he changed it. And then he wrote the feature film that came out in 2002 or 3 or whatever it was. And he changed it again. And I remember reading an interview with him and somebody was like, why do you keep changing things in your story? And he goes, because as you get older, you have different ideas. You can't rewrite the book, but if you have the opportunity to rewrite it again, whether it's a movie, TV show, a radio play, he's like, I want to put those new ideas into it. I thought that was kind of cool. He never strayed that far away.
Yeah.
Then that, like, if you read the book and you thought, oh my God, he wrote the movie, it's going to be just like the book, and you walk in, that's not. What the heck? It's like, that's what he wanted. He wanted something different. I get that.
Yes.
Creator. If I was to go remake one of my movies now, I wouldn't do it word for word exactly the same. I have new ideas I want to work into it. You know.
I know, and I agree with you 100% because you can't. You're just gonna be stale if you keep on rewriting the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and if Stephen King had the chance to rewrite Cujo, why not change it up? You know.
Yeah.
But
But I guess the studio said nah, so they got somebody else to come in and write it. I like how he got his idea was his motorcycle broke down or needed repair, so he went out to this place and had it fixed. It was out in the country, and there was a big dog that came running up, and they're like, "This will make a
what if?"
Yeah, what if? A lot of his novels are like that.
That was, I mean, I've come up with ideas just because of what if the situation.
Yeah.
What if, and then you start writing the idea of what if, and it could become something, could not. And Cujo, for me, I like the book better than the movie. Or Howling, I think I like the movie better than the book.
Yeah.
I love Stephen King as a writer too, so I think
he's probably one of my favorites. I cannot stand when people say, "Oh yeah, Mr. Horror." It's like he is hardly to me he's like the Mark Twain of the 21st century.
Yeah, because he does so much more than horror, but he's known for horror. You know, like that was his bread and butter for sure. You know,
I belonged to a writing group, and there was these people on there saying, they were talking about his book on writing, and they're trying to quote something from it. But I'm not a fan, but I like. It's like I want to say,
you're a fan.
Up. You're a fan. You're just it's Stephen King's below you. It's like he's not cool to like. He is one of the best writers. Anything that guy can write on the back of a matchbook, I'll read it.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like, as you know, it's going to be compelling. Even his books are still very interesting and compelling. You know, everyone talks. It is way too long, even as a book. You know, in my opinion. But it was one of those things where Stephen King got to do exactly what he wanted with the book, and he went all the way. And I love when he delves off into a side story that has nothing to do with the rest of it, just to give you this piece of something, because that's kind of a cool little, introduction to the universe. Like there's things in Cujo that you really didn't really move the story, but like because they were there, you got to know the characters better.
Well, I like what he does is how he brings people from his other stories into the newer stories. Yeah. And with this, Cujo was supposed to be a reincarnation from another story. From one
in
of
the
his
book,
the book. So
they cut all that out of the movie, though.
Yeah, and I like what they did. That I read the book.
In the movie, I'm okay with them cutting it out because it was too. If they had all the supernatural elements of like the monster in the closet and all that, and like the spirit in the closet that was tormenting the kid, if they worked that into the movie, it would have been too much.
Yeah, but
right after Poltergeist, there's already all that in the house. Like, just the dog being bit and having rabies is fucking terrifying enough.
Yeah,
and you don't need there to be some monster that created it all. The reality is a pet with rabies, a lovable pet that gets sick and turns on you, is terrifying. It doesn't need to be anything else than that. Like the book better. I haven't read the book since I was maybe 12. I'm not gonna lie, but like. If I remember correctly, sometimes in the book it's told from the dog's point of view.
Yeah,
you're wrong.
No, I think you are correct. I haven't
comments on YouTube. Tell me if I'm wrong. But and in his point of view, or maybe just how I remember it. But in his point of view, I remember the dog thinking, "Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this, but I have to do this because it's who I am now." Like the disease, he can still kind of have that conscious thought of, "I care about people, but I'm going to eat these motherfuckers." So it's like there's that struggle for the dog as he's getting sicker too. And I was saying earlier, like before we started recording, like Cujo's not my favorite movie. I don't dislike it. I like it. I've watched it a couple times. It's not the most watchable movie. And for me, part of it is I'm such an animal lover that making the animal the villain is always like hard for me to watch. The birds, they're birds. Jaws, it's a shark. And sharks don't swim backwards. Okay, Jaws goes backwards. It doesn't happen. They can't. They physically can't do it. So it's fantasy. The birds, same thing. It's fantasy. Like things like that. But when it's a dog, a pet, especially a Saint Bernard, which is like one of the most common, loving dogs in the world, to turn evil, it's hard to watch for me.
See, that's it's funny. That's the exact reason why I liked it. It worked for me because it's something that could happen. And it's so believable.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm so glad it didn't happen. But originally they wanted to use a Doberman in the movie.
Yeah, the director wanted to train. The dog trainer wanted to use a Doberman because they're easy to train. Yeah.
And they said no. And what they did was, I've heard different stories from different people. The last total I heard was they used 13 dogs and a person and a man in a dog suit.
I heard 9 or 11.
Yeah. See,
a dog suit. Plus like a puppety type thing. So that's maybe where 13 comes from?
Yeah, maybe. Because one of them...
Ask D.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be asking her.
I've heard like 3 different things, 9, 11, and 13. But the 13 I heard included the guy in the dog suit and like an animatronic or a puppet head.
Yeah. Well, there's a puppet head. The person in the suit, one scene that I'm positive about is where you see Cujo ram into the car trying to.
Yeah, that's got to be either a prop or a guy in a suit. What are
No, it's a guy in a suit. Here's what happened was, when they filmed the scene originally, they ripped out the doors. So Cujo's ran right through the car to the other side to the trainer. When they filmed it, they had the guy in the suit ram his head into
it.
Yeah,
okay, that's cool.
That's how that was done. And the funny thing,
like I said, I don't dislike the movie because of how it could be a real thing. It's my favorite concept for horror movies. Also, for me, when I watch horror movies, I'm more of the fantastical end of it. That's why I like vampires. That's why I like werewolves. That's why I like monster movies. You know, real horror sometimes is live in real life. I want to get away from that. Cujo was not real life. I could have escaped that movie in 10 minutes if I was in her situation. You know, you're in the car, you're locked in the car, the dog is coming. Okay, you want to get out of the dark car? Open both sides of the doors up, and when the dog gets in, go out one, shut it, run around the other side and shut it. Dog's now in the car. You
have a point there. But
it took me until about a week ago to figure that out when we started about doing this episode. Because in the moment, you don't know what you're going to do. But I thought, why didn't she just, I know the kid was sick, but why didn't she put him on the roof, get out, let the dog come running towards the car, shut the door, go to the other side and shut that door too, whichever side the dog came in on. And I mean, it's the same for now. They don't move that fast. You
know what? I can say, for me and millions of other people, I'm so glad that you did not direct that movie. Because I like
that. You know what? Had I directed that movie, I would have worked that into her and made it fail. It would have had to fail. She would have had the idea, she would have tried it, and that would have been like her last effort. And that's when the breakdown would have happened. You know, like the whole crying, and like that would have been the end. Like, you know, before the end, that would have been that moment of we're never going to escape. Yeah.
Well, doing my research, I realized there's a lot of connections between The Howling and Cujo. One connection is that Louis Teague, he's the director. He directed the movie Alligator.
Yep.
Stephen King saw that movie and said, "I like this."
Yeah.
So I don't think Stephen King was really involved with his pictures as much as he was back then.
He got more involved over the years for sure, but that was one of the earlier ones, and he wasn't really involved.
Yeah, but they liked Louis Teague from the movie Alligator, which I love that movie, and
Alligator is so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another movie where it's just great characters. And what happened was, they saw the first showing after the movie was done, and the studio said, "Love the second half. Hate the first half. It's too boring. Let's cut down the first half and just keep the second." They showed
it right to the action.
Yeah, and they showed to the audience, and people were like, "We care less what happens to Dee and Danny, the son."
Yeah.
Like, we don't even. But once they put the first part in, you get to really care about these characters, find out where they're coming from, and so they put the first couple scenes back into the movie.
Back in, yeah.
But the studio is. We talked about this before. Like, I've had people say, "Oh, I always fast forward through the boring parts in The Shining." It's like, what are you talking about? There are no boring parts. People are just. Nobody likes to slow build. I love character development, and I know you do as well.
Yeah.
And that makes a movie. I want to care about these characters. I want to know who they are and why they're doing what they're doing. And I don't want to just go right to nonstop action. I mean, that's a superhero movie. And that's
exactly. I mean, you can open it up with action, but then go give me a story and then go back to more action. I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, like I can understand why the studio would look at the Cujo the first quarter of the movie and be like, "Wow, who cares if they're having affairs and all that?" It doesn't. But then realize that it doesn't really help you because you don't really care about them. Like, that's what I was saying. You know, like you have to care about a character in order to want them to survive the film or to be upset when they die.
Well, that's why I like the fact that she was having an affair with his friend, because that's when he leaves, but he still cares about her. So he goes back to see what's wrong because she won't answer the phone.
Right.
And so, I mean, instead of like if there was no conflict at all, it would just be okay.
Yeah, if it was just them going there and the dog happened to have rabies and that's what she gets for driving a Pinto.
She should have a Hyundai Elantra like me.
Right. Isn't it a Pinto? It's a Pinto in the book. Yeah. In the movie, is it a Pinto?
Yeah, I think it's a Pinto.
Yeah.
Somebody brought up a great point, though. I was watching something. Said Cujo was done in by two bats. One was a real bat, and the other one was a baseball bat.
Oh, I bet you that was on purpose. Now you think about it.
I know.
Stephen King and his sense of humor. That was probably never put that together. It was probably on purpose. Yeah. All right, I'm looking on Wikipedia, which we know is always correct.
Oh, yes.
It says here that Cujo was played by 4 St. Bernards,
Okay.
several mechanical dogs. It doesn't say how many. A black lab Great Dane mix in a St. Bernard costume, and a stuntman. So 4 mechanical, we'll say 2 or 3. I'm going to still say 11 sounds right to me, 11 or 12.
Yeah. Well, I saw 2 interviews with Dee, and she said 13. But then, I was watching these are more recent interviews. In older interviews, they asked like 4 different people, including Danny, the boy, and everybody had different answers. So nobody really knows for sure.
No one really knows.
Between 11 and 13 sounds right. I mean, your Wikipedia saying 11 or close to that, and she's saying 13. So because other people were saying, oh, I think there was 5, and even the director said, I think it was 5 or 6 or so. But I'm with more of the information as it comes out. It seems like it's between 11 and 13. And you know what's funny? They said that the hardest part was because how they got the dog, how they enticed the dog to come into the car, looked like it was attacking. They had a toy, and the trainer would be going like this with it, and the dog would have to go after the toy. And they said they had to tie
the tail
down because the dog was so happy and wagging.
Yeah.
It didn't look menacing at all. They said,
they had to do that through the whole movie though, because St. Bernards just want to play, So the whole time they had like people like holding the tails down and tying them down. Because otherwise, I mean, like honestly, as a movie watcher, I probably wouldn't catch if the tail was going.
Oh yeah.
I love dogs and everything, but I don't own one, but I love dogs and all that. And but I would just think it's an angry, evil dog. Its tail's going because it wants to eat you. Like it's trying to eat you. But I guess they wanted to go with the complete, like this dog is shut down. And it's just a machine for killing now. So I get where they went with that.
Especially say it's like maybe like late or like late night or early morning, the sun's just coming up, and you just see the dog sitting there, just like almost like waiting for them.
Like it's just like plants, like like because that's what it's doing. It's just that's its lunch at this point,
And so, another thing I was thinking about is we mentioned this in a previous episode where Sunset Boulevard and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. There's not a lot of blood in that movie. In this movie, the same thing. There's not really a lot of blood
because it's not necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing with Howling. There's not a lot of blood in that either. That's another reason why I think if they took the nudity out, it might have got a PG. Not a lot of blood. There's a little gore, but not a lot of blood in either movie. The dog bleeds more than anybody else in Cujo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about before. It was the 4th highest grossing horror film of 1983 behind Jaws 3D,
which was number 1,
Psycho 2, and Twilight Zone the movie.
Yeah, I can understand Psycho 2 doing really well that year because it had been 26, 27.
It was something like that, and it was this, the first sequel to the Psycho. I mean, after a while, it got so boring, but the first sequel was Psycho 20-something years later. Yeah, Jaws 3D. I don't know what people were thinking.
I know what it was. I mean, I have a feeling I know what it was. Like just from my own, as a film guy and like, everything. I think the reason why it did so well is 1, it was Jaws. Jaws 2 was actually a really worthy sequel. Wasn't as good as, but it's still a really good movie. You're coming out a couple years off of that, and it was SeaWorld was a big deal in the early '80s.
Yeah,
and then 3D had just come back. So you put those 4 things together, and people were like, "Oh my God, it's Jaws! It's summer! It's scary! We're gonna rush to see this because it made a lot of money doesn't mean it stood the test of time. And that's why Cujo is still well known. Jaws is kind of a joke. So Twilight Zone is, it's remembered but not very fondly.
Yeah,
Cujo is still considered like a 80s horror classic, and then you go to Psycho 2, same thing. It did well, partially what it was. It was the first time a movie of that era had gotten a sequel in at that time, a modern era. And we're excited to see Anthony Perkins back as him. And out of those 4 movies, if I had to pick one, I'm going for Cujo first, then Twilight Zone.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll never watch Jaws 3 again if I can avoid it.
But what really, I didn't find this out until later. I didn't realize it. One of my favorite writers is Richard Matheson, who wrote most of the best Twilight Zones. He wrote so many other great movies too. Like the one was I can't remember what Will Smith did a version of it, but
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend, yeah. But I like the Vincent Price version better, which is The Last Man on Earth. That was more.
But the book is
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
The book is this. Yeah, so he wrote things like that. He wrote What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
That was such a the book again was better. So when I saw his name attached to that, I said, "Oh, what was he thinking? was he in Michael Caine mode?"
Yes, there was money involved. Absolutely. I think did that to people.
Yeah.
It invented Blockbuster. You were guaranteed a good paycheck by working on it after that.
Right. That's
so let's speak of sequels. Speaking of sequels, Cujo 2.
They made one?
It doesn't exist for a reason because you don't need a sequel.
Oh, okay.
Well, making fun of it. Not everything needs a sequel. You didn't need a sequel to Cujo. Going back, you don't need a sequel to Jaws, but we got it. Cujo was this, like I said, it's not my favorite movie of all time. I like it. I respect it. I do enjoy it. But it's I don't dislike it in any way. It's not. If I had the two movies again, I'd pick Howling over it. But it's just you don't need a sequel. You don't need Cujo's Revenge. And when you think about it, in '83 that came out, right?
Yes.
We are on the edge of every movie getting sequels. That's about '84. The sequelitis really began. '84, '85, '86. You started seeing sequels to everything. Star Wars really. Star Wars and Rocky did sequels so well.
Mm-hmm.
That made money was getting a sequel by 1995. And Cujo was right on the beginning. Like a little bit more money, we would have had Cujo's Revenge. It would have been like Cujo's Puppy.
Yeah, son of Cujo.
Yeah, it would have been born with like a psychic connection to its parent, and now it's seeking out the woman that did it in, and and you'd have some other actress playing her, and it would be on video. I just wrote a sequel, a bad sequel. Let's make it.
I know. Can I play the boy all grown up?
Exactly. You'll play Tad, or we'll get Danny back. I'm sure he'd love to do that.
Oh, yeah.
What's he doing? What's he doing now?
I'll make some calls. I'll make it happen.
What is he doing now? What is he? He was on Who's the Boss, right?
Yes. Okay. I don't know. I haven't seen him, and if I have seen him, I didn't realize it.
Wikipedia.
Yes.
Let's see.
Well, while you're talking about that or looking that up, I'm going to tell you what Stephen King said that his favorite performance in all his movies at the time was Dee Wallace.
Oh, I bet she killed it. I mean, everyone in that movie was great because it was played so straight too. It just killed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that, she was saying, there's the scene where they're in the car. It got so real. I want my daddy. I'll get your daddy.
Yeah.
That afterwards, the director said, "You know what? People are not going to like you. We might have to take that scene out." She goes,
"Calm it down a little.
Trust me. Keep that in." She goes, "If anybody who has a kid is going to realize you're in there, you fight for his life, and you're gonna get frustrated. There's going to be a lot of tension." And so the director took her word for it and kept that scene in there. But he was worried that she was going to come across as unlikable because that just came out. That she was acting, but that line just came out of her mouth. "I'll get your daddy." And the one thing
that's
I
cool
didn't
though,
realize,
because it felt real then. That's what was cool about it.
Yeah,
and
that movie is very, very,
very real feeling. It's like none of it feels like a special effects movie. None of it feels. That's what I was saying. Like that type of horror movie. It's played like in reality, and that's a different level of scary.
So the funny thing is, while you're talking about before you do that, Danny, which you're going to tell me where he is now, he at the time was 6 years old, could not read. So what his mother would do was recite the lines to him, and he would memorize the lines that his mother was reading.
What do you mean he couldn't read at 6? No, I'm just kidding.
That's what it says.
No, I mean, who could? I don't know. I don't know if I could. I'm just pretty smart ass. What's wrong with him? How dare a 6-year-old not know how to read yet?
I thought I was the only one that could read at 6.
I was lucky. I was reading in kindergarten, but that's but I still can't do math.
No, that's all right. You and I have that in common too. Then.
So as of 2019, he works as a vet tech.
All right.
Been there since 2016 with his husband. He doesn't act very often. He pops up here and there. He hasn't done a movie since 2006, and he hasn't done anything on TV or anything since 2010. He was in Secret Life of American Teenager. He guest starred in an episode, but he doesn't really act anymore.
In this movie, he was the scene where he was having.
He just looks like he's dying the whole time, like.
Well, there is a reason for that because they made it seem like it was so warm and
But
they're
it was
dying
winter, wasn't it?
freezing. Yes, it was winter,
Yeah.
and Dee made them put a heater in the car. And what happened was the heater was too loud, so they would warm the car up, turn it off.
Turn it off.
And there's a scene in there where he has a seizure, and she said, Dee was walking through it. And he goes, I had one of these before. Don't worry about me. And she said it was like working with a little adult. He was so professional. And that scene was like, she was really freaking out. I mean, it was so real.
He did so good at it. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The director of photography was Jan de Bont. I wanted to bring that up.
Yes.
Who went on to direct a ton of movies later on. Like he was a really, really good, well, I don't know, is he still working or not? I don't know. But a really good cinematographer, which, you know, then he went on to do, you know, Twister, Speed. You know, he did some really good directing jobs too. You know, Twister was a little too CG for me, but I get why it was intense.
Yeah.
You know, he hasn't done much since, it looks like.
Yeah, well, he was really
He hasn't directed since 2003, since the first, since the second, first or second, I think the second Tomb Raider movie.
Okay.
And really, that would probably kill anybody's career.
But he was really good with this movie because it was so hard for them to film in the car because it was so small. So he found a way to, and the lighting really wasn't that good. So he found a way to, like, I think they had another car. They ripped off the top and then were able to film it that way. And there's another scene they were talking about was the bed, where he was afraid of the monster under the bed. So he
monster under the bed.
But the way they showed it, where he flipped, jumps out and then comes down. The way he rigged the camera, the director said, I want to do this. And he goes, give me 5 minutes. And he said he was so happy working with him. He goes, anything I asked this guy to do, he got it done. He made it look great. He goes, I had no worries having him as DP.
Yeah, he had a great eye for how to do that. You know, so that's good. You know, but it's just cool to see like a different name of a guy who coming out of that and then becoming a full-blown director is really cool because you do these lower budget horror movies, you never know if you're going to go anywhere.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
because this was, I'm trying to think of, it was one of Stephen King's first. It was The Shining, Cujo, Carrie.
Carrie was early on too.
So there really wasn't. I mean, there might have been Salem's Lot too. I'm trying to remember when that came up. But either way,
Salem's Lot was before that, and Cat's Eye was the next movie that I think that was made after Cujo. And if you watch, Christine was before Cujo, I think, as well.
Okay.
If you watch Cat's Eye, the opening scene is I'm sure you wanted to bring this up. Opening the cat being chased by a Saint Bernard.
Yep.
And they almost get hit by a car. And what car is it?
Christine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun little, like, that's so Stephen King, you know?
No, I was going to bring that up, but yeah, that's why I said I love how he I mean, I know the directors did that with those movies, but in his books, he's the same way. He'll have characters from other books, like Randall Flagg from The Stand is in so many other novels of his.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's, his son, Joe Hill, is a great author as well.
Yep.
And they are combining characters. Like, characters from Joe Hill's story will be in
Stephen King books now, yeah.
So they go back and forth. But I know you didn't like it as much as I did. I did love the movie.
I don't dislike it though. Like I do like it. I don't. It's not a rewatchable movie as much as Howling and some of the movies we've covered.
Oh, yeah, I mean
the DVD. I didn't realize that till we were getting ready to do this one. I decided my cousin-in-law gave me a box of DVDs. Mm-hmm. My cousin's husband, like he was getting rid of, and I went like half of them, and Cujo is one of them. Like I think it's still shrink wrap too. I'll have to dust it off and finally rewatch it. I will. And then I'll watch Cujo 2. No, just kidding.
No, that's after we make Cujo 2.
That's after we write it and pitch it. Cujo's Revenge.
I still think Son of Cujo. I like that.
Son of Cujo, that's the one. Yes, Son of Cujo. It's Danny and his kid, or Tad and his kid.
Yeah.
Cujo and the reincarnated Cujo ghost. It's like a Scooby-Doo movie. Forget it. Let's make it.
D can make a cameo.
There we go. D plays Tad's mom again.
Yep. So
about it next week. No, we won't. We'll bring that up later. I don't want to embarrass ourselves. But yeah, so I mean, I like it though. I just don't love it. You know, all the Stephen King movies. Like, I mean, you look at. I'm looking at his filmography right now. The theatrical releases.
Yeah. What's your favorite adaptation?
Well, Creep Show came before Cujo.
Okay.
Just by a few months, it looks like. Dead Zone was right after Cujo, followed by Christine. Cat's Eye was in 85, actually. There were like 4 or 5 movies in between them, but same director as Cujo. Louis Teague did both of those. I didn't know
Okay.
that makes sense then, too, which is cool. That mid-'80s, man. Stephen King in the mid-'80s. His movies for me there, some of them are really horribly cheesy, but bro, Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive, Stand By Me.
I love those.
All 3 of those movies are amazing. Pet Sematary in 89. Misery. You know, 90,
I like Salem's Lot too.
Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot was a made-for-TV movie, though.
Yes, with David Soul, who played Starsky Hutch.
Yep.
But that vampire freaked me out. What year was that made?
Finding the TV movies now. Hold on.
I'm just curious.
It was 79. Yeah.
Okay, so I was 11.
It was that whole the Nosferatu look, and it was so creepy. Yeah.
Like when he's tapping at the window.
You go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said when he was tapping at the window. I remember seeing that, and that freaked me out.
Yeah, I didn't. You know what's funny? When people think about Stephen King, they're talking about Cujo. They think of things like Cujo. They think of things like It. They think of the average person. Then you have the horror fans. Like, he's more than horror, because that's what we are. But he did Stand By Me. He did Dolores Claiborne. He did
Shawshank Redemption,
which is the same book as Stand By Me. He did, he did The Running Man.
The Green Mile.
When you look at all these things, though, they're like the Green Mile is definitely still a horror tale, because a good person goes to the chair.
Yeah.
Stand By Me is a horror story if you're an 11-year-old kid and your parents are ignoring you, and they don't even care if you're gone for 3 days looking for a dead body. That's a horrible thing for a kid to live through, to be neglected like that. So it's a different type of horror,
Yeah.
Stand By Me is the coming of age about these 4 boys who do this thing and stand up for themselves, and because they are all in a bad place and they want to be better, become men, But at the same time, it's like all these 4 kids have a shitty cross to bear in their life,
Yeah, no, he's probably one of the best writers with character development. If you look at the beginning of his books, he will have 12 or 13 protagonists, 25 antagonists, and you know and care about each and every one. His books, he's one of the few authors. There's 2 or 3 other ones, but when his book is done, I'm mad.
Yeah.
I said, really, I still want to read more.
I want to read more.
Stephen King has so much fun writing these books, and that's probably what makes him so good. That he said after he's done with the book, that's when he's most depressed. He goes, I love these characters. I don't want to stop now. And he's mad when the novel, he goes, the part getting it out and selling it, I really could care less. He goes, the writing is what I love, and you can tell because his books are so good. I don't think I've ever
he's
been
always doing it. You look at Stephen King's career. There's never a big break in between books. It's not.
And after he almost died from a car.
Yeah, he wrote. Because what was he going to do though? Too. I mean, he wrote. But
no. He said he was going to retire because he could never write. I think he's written his best books after that.
Some of his best books. Well, I think he was retired because he was depressed about the injuries. I'm not going to write anymore. I'm depressed. And then you start. If you're depressed, you start. If you come out of that funk, usually what brings you out of that funk are the things you love. And writing was something he loved, so I'm sure that helped him. He's written some of the best stuff since. Absolutely. And he's definitely more of a free spirit too. I think since then about his work is portrayed in media. He's definitely more laid back about people doing what they want with the movies. I think he doesn't get as precious as he used to, and I think part of that is because he's just this is retirement fun.
Oh yeah, well that's what he said. He said in the beginning he was really that was his baby. He was tied to that project.
Yeah,
that was his book, and then they changed it. Now exactly what you just said. I've heard him say. So I saw him speak at the Bushnell, and he was talking about that. And he said, at the time he was so pissed off, and he goes, "No, whatever." But it's funny because you can tell when he really likes the movie because he'll come out and promote
He'll really promote the movie.
I've never seen something before the movie It was shown in theaters. They had a little cameo from Stephen King saying, "Oh yeah, you gotta check out this movie. You're gonna love it." I've never seen him do that for another one of his adaptations.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think you're gonna like that. What I wanted to bring up with the Tim Curry It versus the new one is way better in every sense of the word. But I think people grew up with the other one. The people and it's like Clerks. oh no, Clerks 2 is not better. Yes, the Clerks 2 is way
It's
better.
a better movie, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But people the same thing. Oh no, the other. I said Tim Curry is a good actor. He did a good job, but it was to me it was too long and drawn out. I mean, the movie just bam, bam, bam. The first part, second part gets a little too much for me. Like, but
Well, have you read the book?
I didn't read that one.
Okay,
that's like
See,
one of the only
the book is like from everyone I know who's read the book and has seen both movies, they love the second one as much because it gets you into things that you don't get until the second half of the book as well. You know, so it's a different story essentially, which is cool. But like for me, like, I remember watching the original miniseries when it was on. Or was it just 2 episodes? I can't remember. Like 2.
No, it was a miniseries. It was more than 2.
Yeah. Okay, I remember watching it when it first came out in '90, and I was bored. You know. Yeah. I was also 15 years old, you know, like I look at my age and I had read the book already. So I knew how this ends and that can bore you, you know, like sometimes. And the production value was made for TV. They didn't have the high budget of a movie. And at that point, that was, like I said, the second TV movie of his work at that point. So everything I'd seen of Stephen King on screen before that was a movie, was big budget, besides Salem Lot, which was big budget for its time.
Yeah.
And then this movie kind of came out, it was shot on videotape. You could tell it wasn't shot on film. Excuse me, it just didn't look as good. And I remember liking it, but not loving it and being kind of bored. And then seeing it like when it came on video, I remember it was like to rent it, you get 2 tapes.
Yeah.
Because it was so long. I really renting it with some buddies like in high school because they hadn't seen it. Oh, we got to see it's creepy. And I remember being a little more creeped out. I think it might have been you know, you're in a dark room with some friends, you had a couple beers, you know, supposed to be 16, you know, or 17 or whatever. It was a little more creepy. And plus Tim Curry did a great job. But I think everyone just was doing the best they could do with what they had versus the movie now.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had more to work with, you know.
Another episode of 2 great character-driven movies. 2 horror movies, again, with not a lot of blood, more plot, which I like. I prefer.
And a great actress.
Yes, great actress. Who's going to be a future guest of Real Talk. Yeah, no, we have a lot to talk about. She's had a long career. She's done a lot, worked with some of the best. So it's going to be a lot to talk about. So definitely check that out. Hopefully it'll be airing around the same time this episode's airing. So once you're watching this, go over and check out D Walls on Real Talk with Rich and Jon.
That's right. So are we wrapping it up right now? Do you think we got everything we got?
You have any more to say? Because
I see a thumbs up for both movies, but a higher thumbs up for Howling for me.
All right. I like both for different reasons, and I really can't pick one because I love the Howling for the reasons we talked about. Cujo, I think I like, for me, what you didn't like about it. I like how realistic, like how something that could happen. It's something that, like, you know what, a dog, you're trapped in a car. I know you basically just debunked that theory. Yeah,
it wouldn't work though. The reality is it wouldn't work. The idea of getting out, because the dog was smart enough to know that you were going out one door or the other anyways. You know, like knew to run, and it would get you.
But either way, I liked it for that reason, and I like because I think the character interaction between the mother and the daughter was so real.
Yeah.
And feel her pain of wanting to save him and feeling
don't want him to die. Yeah.
And she really was helpless herself, but she'd do anything to save his life, and it was just great acting. I think that's what made me like it even more. Like, not even really the horror aspect, just the characters.
Yeah, so, the acting is amazing. The writing was great.
Yeah. So other than that, 2 thumbs up.
Nice.
My name is Rich Cyr. You can find me on nutmegjunction.com, nutmegchatter.com, and also check out my YouTube channel. You're looking at the screen right now. Subscribe to my channel, Rich Cyr. And Jon,
I'm Jon Bristol. You can find me at elmwoodproductions.com down here. It's like that.
Right there.
All of my stuff is found there. You can also see a movie called Head right here on YouTube. Check that out, please.
Great movie.
Thank you. We should do an episode about that one these days.
We have to. We'll talk about this. We talked about it before. I love horror movies. I love the horror movies of the 80s, like Evil Dead, as everybody knows. We've been talking about this all the time. And that is a great.
Awesome.
I'm paying homage to
like a retrospective episode of that movie.
Yes. And that's gonna be in theaters soon.
Yeah, we're doing a screening, and as long as COVID stops, we'll be doing it, or calms down. We'll be doing a screening in October. I'm trying to blank on how to say months in October. So we'll put a link in the description for the screening if you want to come to it. It's going to be here in Connecticut. And I think that's it for me. Yeah, just everybody stay safe out there and stay healthy.
Yep, and we'll see you on YouTube.
I'm gonna light up your whole body, Karen.
Turn around now, Karen. I want to give you something.
Oh boy.